Wait a minute, that's not right. That's getting there. That camera's pointing the wrong way. Hi! Let's try this again. Good morning, I am Phil, I am the Down Under Maker. Welcome to my workshop. A few things to let everybody know. Number one, Ryder says hi. He enjoyed his time with us on the stream last week, but it was a little bit too long for him. He's not even 2 yet, so sitting still for an hour was a really big thing for him, and we managed at least that. I've just been looking around the workshop and I appear to have lost a wheel, so that might make life interesting later. But in the meantime, I should show you. I have some new toys. Let's see if I can get this to work now. Top-down camera. Hi. Is my OBSBot Meet 2, which used to live over there, and it's now my overhead camera because here is an OBSBot Tiny 2 that I picked up on an amazing deal this week, along with the Stream Deck, right there. So new toys, it's all a bit changed around. Other things, I have completely rearranged my workshop. We're doing the thing at the dining table last week showed me that my ergonomics in here were appalling because I was getting things done better out at the dining table, not having really done anything. So that's all been changed around. And now what I have got is I have what was 2 back-to-back standing desks. So this one and one that was over there is now one standing desk here and one. I've just dropped my microphone, which means I've just dropped you guys on your head. 1 second. Okay. Let's try doing it with a magnet. There we go. So what that means is I now have a much bigger space behind here, much better depth of field, and I've also rearranged my printers a little bit. Let's jump out of the way for a second. I can't because the camera will follow me. Let's see if I can turn that off. But in a nutshell, Voron in the corner, huge gap where the filament dryer and all my desk storage now is, then the Ender 5, and then all the junk in the corner, which you might not be able to see because of the lamp and stuff. Poor Daddy. Hi Martin, how are you? So let me just rearrange some of this so I can see chat better. There we go. So what this should mean is now I've got the Stream Deck, it should mean I have to look at the other screens a lot less. And I now have a third screen. So you guys are now way over there where I didn't used to have access to be able to see anything on an old TV set that's basically redundant. I've got all my stuff that I need up on a monitor up here above this side camera. It's up here, and I've got another monitor over here. So this monitor to over here, that one is where I've got the camera just sitting on the top corner of the monitor. So that's where I'm going to largely be looking. That's where I've got my build guide and all the stuff that I'm going to be using. You don't need any more of a workshop tour than this, Jex. This is as much as you need. And over here, down here, if the camera will follow, down a bit, down a bit. No, it might not. Actually, you can probably see it in the side cam. I have a bunch of laptops if I get out of the way. In case anything goes wrong, one of them is my old streaming laptop and I can just throw it into the situation. So, now, truck. I cheated on you guys just ever so slightly during the week because I kept dropping the logo. I kept dropping the Down Under logo from the tipper gate, and I just stuck it in there so it wouldn't get damaged. You're setting up your own. When it comes time to set your own up, message me and we will do it live and I'll criticize it for you. It worked for me when I did it with Jeremy and Keela. Having somebody there to go, no, that's a really bad idea, really helps. Also, we can make sure that you don't have the same first streaming issues that I had, where my first stream was just abandoned because it wasn't going to happen. Let's get rid of that box because it's in the way. Now, truck. 1 wheel, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels, 5 wheels. I feel like we need the vampire from the Sesame Street going because wheel number 6 has gone walkabout and I don't know where it is. Hopefully I don't have to reprint it, but I can reprint it if we have to. Here's some parts that have been floating around that are just too big. The tray. It wasn't actually sitting together very well. So I took it apart here and here, and I screwed it back together, and now it's sitting together much more nicely. I think maybe as it drills its own threads into the plastic, it had pushed some swarf into the bottom of the hole, so it couldn't actually get the screw to bottom out. So once I pulled the screw out, cleaned out the swarf, and put the screw back in, everything went much more smoothly. Let's put the tray out of the way for a moment. These are parts for the later in the build. That's already screwed in. That is the tipper gate. That's the first thing we're going to do, I think. Let's get rid of that too. So, back to me. Right. Let's have a look at this instruction manual, shall we? Now, I am going to hopefully have had all of this set up properly, but if it's not, bear with me, yell at me in chat, and now I can see chat much more readily. I can get back to you much more quickly. So, where we got to last week, we were just starting to put things together, and it just happened to be the perfect time when the little guy just started getting grumpy. In the last week, I have managed to get out to the hobby supplies because my order for some windows actually finally came in. So that's all good. And what we need to do first of all is we need to get a big ass screwdriver and we need to put these clips in. Now, just to explain what these clips are, let's bring up the instruction manual page. It's right down the bottom. Now, we have been jumping around in the manual for those people who haven't visited my streams before. Some of the reason being I lost parts. Some of the reason being I needed to reprint parts because they just didn't fit quite right. And sometimes just to fit in with stream timing, it just worked better to jump from one part of the manual to the next. So here we go. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. Now, these little blue pieces are the tipper tailgate locks. What happens is when they're in position, they've got a little stubby bump underneath here, which locks them into place. And you can slide them in and out to lock against the inside of the tipper tray. Now, having done a little bit of investigation and cheating on you guys with the Facebook group for 3D sets, I found out that it's much easier to use a big flat-headed screwdriver, push it in over the first part of the hump, and then slide it all the way in. So that's done. And this one too. Hopefully it doesn't mar the plastic too much. So I saw most of you online earlier on either Modbot or Keela's streams. Keela dropping out halfway through a few times wasn't the greatest thing to happen to her, but hopefully she doesn't get busted for illegally serving alcohol at Murph. So, custom tipper door. Let's get that fitted to the tipper tray so it's one less piece I have to worry about losing. Now it says here to put the tipper tailgate label in. That's already in. Let's go to the hands plus me. So that label is already in. That is this piece here. And I'm hoping, actually, I should probably be on the chrome one. There we go. That piece there is what we've already got installed. There. So we need M310s. The other thing that I've done is I've cleaned up some of my random screws and nuts and stuff that have been floating around the workshop, and that's freed up a whole bunch of Steve's trays that I've had printed, and that means that I can now do things a bit better in terms of screw storage, and I'm less likely to throw them across the floor. The drivers that Nick recommended that turned up last week midstream, they are really nice. They fit really well into these heads, and I am pretty happy with them. Now, one thing that does concern me that I've noticed about this tipper door, it seems very, very narrow for the tipper tray. I'm going to go with it. If it doesn't work, what I might need to do is just scale it in the axis that's a bit short and go from there. Now, Mrs. Maker's home today. She's supposed to be working from home, but she's agreed to look after the little guy while I do this stream. What we may do is only run for about 90 minutes, just to be fair to her, because she's got work to do. There. Jex, I will put a link. Actually, can I, now I've got access to more stuff, I can go to here, I can go to channel content, I can go to this one, I think it is. No, customization. Nope. Settings. Community moderation. Let's go at can each of you put your YouTube names into chat? Put at, then a space, and then your YouTube actual username. Then I can add you as moderators, and then you can post links. Uh-oh, Jex is saying naughty words. So, M310s are in, door is on. Now, how does that fit onto the truck? Oh, we need to have done other things first. That's right. So let's scroll back a little bit. That's putting the suspension on. So you're just at Jex. Oh, Jex_1. There we go. So Jex, you should now be able to post links, and once Nick and Martin and whoever else is in chat post their YouTube URLs, I'll be able to add them as moderators, and then you guys can post links. I'm trusting you guys. If you're dicks, I will take it off you. So let's go back to suspension. Now, this is where things started coming undone a few weeks ago. I hadn't properly read instructions. I hadn't understood what was going on properly, and I ended up breaking some parts. So what was happening was I didn't understand. Well, let's go back to, yeah. I didn't understand that this printing plate wasn't just something to whack against. There's actually a dent in it. Just here, which allows the ball head of the arm to actually sit into it properly. And yeah, I broke things. So there's a spare one in case I break things this time. there, and there, and there. The other thing I now have is I have a drawer to hand directly to the right-hand side of me where I keep all my parts. Instruction manual for the RC, we might need that a bit later. Okay, one. So this screen is a how-to. This is the actual process. Now there's two kinds apparently, and I'm just making sure. They look identical. Oh, one's got a notch on it and one doesn't. Okay, so the front part has a notch on it, which matches that part there. So that's for the front axle. So that's the right one for there. And now we need to start putting together the front suspension, which we did actually start. This is how hardcore I was going, gentlemen. I even got the spray and wipe out and started to clean the desk surfaces. So that part with the bearing in it is already here. This is where we spend a few more minutes with Phil digging through the tub. So let's get rid of that for a second. That's rubbish. My missing screwdriver. Oh, that's where we got up to last week. We were putting the trims on the fuel tanks. Maybe we should get that done and then come back to this so that we are a little bit more with what's going on. Sorry, guys. Let's go back to that one. Where we got to last week, we were putting the trims on the fuel tank, and that's when the little guy started getting a little bit restless. So let's finish doing the trims on the fuel tank. Ow. Just stabbed my thumb on a little piece of plastic. That's locked in. And it's a mirrored set, so that goes to the outside, which means it goes that way. Let's just scroll through the manual and find out where this is. Is that the one? No, that's mounting, so it's after this. I know we're jumping around in the manual a little bit, so let's go back to that one so you can see what I'm scrolling past. So it's already on by there. Here we go. Page 67 of the manual. It was a whole bunch of M3x6, that's right. And where did I put the driver? There, no. There, can't see it for looking. Now, what I was struggling with last week was getting the screw holes in the bottom part lined up with the top part, because it's not easy to see. Now, I know the lighting isn't the greatest under this new setup. It's one of those things where a small compromise had to be made in the short term. I remember what we did. I came up with a method for doing this. So the M36s are so short that it's really, really hard to get these line up right for the holes because they only just protrude through. But what I can do is I can put a couple of these M310s in diagonally to line it up. So I can see them just poking their threads into the blue part. Then I can pull it all up close and use the M36s. Swap out the M310s and life should be good. Just making sure I've got this the right way around. Yes, I do. There and there. Let's go to that one so you can see my hands a bit better. Now I know I'm still a bit clunky with the Stream Deck, but I can already feel that my workflow is a little bit better. I don't have to look up at OBS to actually do the screen swaps anymore. Now this is the first M36 going in. And it's biting. Second M36 going in. Then we'll pull the M310s out. Now, Steve Builds sent me a message overnight my time going, Bill, I think you screwed up. Well, I'm paraphrasing, but he very kindly let me know that I'd actually scheduled the stream for 12 hours later than I thought. So it was going to be 10 o'clock tonight, my time, as opposed to 10 o'clock in the morning, like it is now. So halfway through Modbot stream, I'm like, oh crap, and I fixed all that up. So very grateful to Steve again today. Nick and Martin must be off doing other things, I think. It must be coming across more seamless if you're saying so. Hopefully not just blowing smoke up my rear end. The next thing I want to do is get a better overhead lighting because it's a bit dark and I might need some fill light for behind me. Get it? Fill light. I'm thinking maybe an LED strip run underneath the rep rack behind me so that the back area is a bit better lit. Okay, so fuel tanks and trims are all in place. Tighten this up a little bit more on the one from last week. Right. So let's have a look. Do they fit these now? Yes, they do. Now, here's the thing about fitting these. If we fit them now, it might be difficult to get them back off again because these are the battery compartment. So what I might do is just fit one to the chassis for now. I want multicolor. I quite like the way Jeremy and Keela have it so that they can change the background colors a little bit. So some NeoPixels might be the way to go. Although I do have some white tubes floating around. I have to have a look. Maybe it'll be the white tubes temporarily until I can justify paying the money for the RGB strips. So that's not the part I wanted. That is. So which side do we want the battery to be on? Which side do we want that to be? I feel like this should be the open side for the battery and this should be the closed side. So Stephen! Now, something I just spotted, which I'm just going to point out. This spike goes all the way through the AdBlue tank, and it's a little bit tight. And I don't want the hassle of breaking it. So what I might do is shave that down just ever so slightly with my deburring tool. So that slides in. That's sliding in better. That needs to line up there. Squeeze a little more. Now, I have already tried to fit this before, just as a loose fit, and I had trouble getting it off again. So very gingerly squeezing it up a little bit at a time, because this is an interference fit. Now that looks like it sits exactly there. So then this one, there's a hole between the air tanks and the same thing applies. So let's shave that down now before I forget and break it later. All I'm doing is just taking off the corners of the strip. Biddy! Biddy, you missed me explaining that I've got a nearly entirely new studio set up. Much better overhead cam. I now have a second OBSBot Tiny 2 over here, and my main OBSBot Tiny 2 here. I now have 3 screens, and I've got a Stream Deck, so I can... My workflow's improved, well, at least according to Jex. He may have just been blowing smoke up my butt, but we shall see. Right, I'm only going to half install that for now to make it easier to get off. So, we have fuel tanks fitted. Now there's a whole bunch of accessories need to go in. Now, front fender turn signal. Let's go to here so you can see what I'm looking at. That one. Front fender turn signal is a little tiny piece which goes here. Okay. Now it said to print these all in either white or clear. It didn't say anything about orange for turn signals, which is a bit odd. But let's go with it, and I can always swap them out at a later date. Tweezers. Sorry guys, it's better that I do this carefully and slowly. I think I've got enough out now for this side. So let's turn the truck on its side. This is never easy to prop up properly. It's better than it was. There. So, according to this, let's zoom in a little. Aha. So I've identified the actual piece I need for this first insert. I'm just going to work out which one is the left side and which is the right side. So bear with me a moment. That looks like it. Now there's a tiny, tiny wisp of plastic sticking out the end from the elephant's foot. Let's go back to come on, Phil. Being quiet is dead air, and dead air is bad for streaming. It's just ever so slightly too big. Let's break out the needle files. These needle files are the cheapest, nastiest AliExpress 3 for $6 specials. But as a result, they're super fragile, and I've already broken 2 of them. All I'm doing is I'm just chamfering the edges just to help me squeeze this into the hole. It feels like it's going to be a really nice interference fit. but just now there's a little bit too much interference. I feel like this would have been much easier to install before putting the actual frame together, but I'm trusting the workflow that they've done. Something to lean on it with just gently. That. There we go. Just for the record of what I did, I found a flat edge on this old useless Allen key that was nice and fat, and that was enough to give me just enough surface area to press on and fit into this little groove. So let's do the same with the other side. That's a bit better. Other one. So hopefully with this new overhead cam, because it has continuous autofocus, which my DSLR doesn't in video mode, you guys should be able to see what I'm doing up and down quite happily. So trimmed off the worst of the elephant's foot. Now for the file. Moustache BR, hello! I don't recall having seen you on my streams before, so please like and subscribe and all that stuff like the YouTubers tell you to. If you're somebody I know from elsewhere, please tell me what username I might know you by. There's a little bit of elephant's foot there still. Allen key again. Oh, that's quite a satisfying click as it goes in. There we go. So now we have to do the same with these. This most definitely would have been easier to fit before fitting the blue piece. And all that time I spent very carefully fitting the fuel tank on the other side so that it wouldn't go all the way in. I just undid by pressing on that a little too hard. So I've got the first two in. This is where I push the third one in, it breaks everything, and I just sit here and go, well, F. So get ready to put F's in chat, please, gentlemen. And any ladies out there? That's why it's not fitting, it's in upside down. No, it's going to need another slight trim. Clown Hammer, hello. So how drunk did Keela and Jeremy end up getting on the stream the other day? I had to bail because it was the middle of the night. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was the middle of the day and I had something to do. I had to go. So I had a medical appointment. I've been told that I need to get a set of rubber mats for standing on while I'm streaming because I've given myself plantar fasciitis. Standing here for too many hours. This is not the easiest to squeeze in. Let's go to the other side. More than was needed. Fit. I think that's upside down, yes. There we go, that's better. It fits marginally better when it's the right way up. But it's such a small margin that it's hard to tell. And that's the fuel tank gone all the way home. And this piece still isn't fitting. Let's put that one to one side and get another one out. Nearly lost it. I got the impression that Jeremy was quietly pushing the drinks, tipping the drinks out to one side from what I saw Clown Hammer. And with the weather forecast they've been having, it wouldn't surprise me if he was on call, so kind of makes sense. Let's try that spade head. There we go. There we go. That one's in. Let's try this one again now. There we go. That went in first time. I should have tried this earlier. And the last one. Oh no, there's one more. One more for the other side, that's right. Yeah, he's the dude with the spiky shoes and stuff. One of my friends is a linesman here in Western Australia, and he was telling me about all the health and safety protocols they have to go through because of all the bitey things they find up the top of poles. So it's not just the stuff traveling through the cables that will bite them. Apparently there's spiders and snakes and lizards and all sorts of stuff they end up finding at the top of poles. Although he tends to do the overhead transmission stuff, the big metal gantries. I can hear my little guy in the next room giving my wife a hard time. So if it gets too bad, we may have to cut short, like I said earlier. She is supposed to be working. It's in! Just noticed a little bit of stringy stuff in this gap. There we go. That's better. Ceramic tweezers. Great for soldering and SMD work. And also handy for this. And because the ends are ceramic, they're rock hard and they don't bend out of the way. So, seeing as that's already pushed 3/4 of the way in. Future fill problem. So, side trims are on, including the light features on that side and that side. That's not quite all the way home. Not that one, that one. There we go, that's better. Honestly, Clownhammer, I haven't checked the license. In Australia, you probably could, but I couldn't speak that elsewhere. I mean, every man and his dog at the local market seems to be selling those stupid dragons and things, which really irritates me because they're charging $30 for about $4 worth of filament. So where are we? According to this, we need to install some electrical stuff. Should we do that? It says the receiver goes... Okay, I should probably make sure that you see what I see. There we go. So we have the side tanks installed, and it's saying to install the receiver and the ESC, but that's because that's already installed at a previous step. Okay. I'm thinking we are rapidly running out of access inside this chassis. And that's probably a really good time to run some cabling. So where did I put my cabling? I just had it there. At least we can cut it to length. Cutty stabby things, there we go. Yeah, that sort of stuff really irritates me, Clownhammer. especially when you're pretty sure that most of the time they've not licensed to sell them commercially, and they probably didn't even buy the model in the first place. They probably just got it from some dodgy STL pack. Now, there was another thing that I cheated on you guys with, purely and simply because I didn't want to make myself look like an idiot on the stream. Let's grab it now. Let's go to that one. This is the AliExpress battery pack that I ordered. It's not exactly the same one as they say to, but that was out of stock. So I got this one. It's the right number of batteries, not right number of cells, I should say, but the wires on it were hopelessly slim and horrible. So I soldered on the thicker wires, and I've also wrapped around with Kapton tape just to make it a little bit strain relief, so I don't accidentally yank the wires off the battery pack and have potential shorting. Yep, that's all nice. So also the Kapton tape hides my not so great soldering job under there. So that's all there. Let's put this out of the way for a few minutes. And soldering iron. Powering up. Need 1, 2, that's the front motor, 3 motors. Hi, Kegel. Some solder would probably be a good idea. And have I got my flux around? Flux. Let's get... No, not that one. Not that one. I put my vise away somewhere. And my helping hands are rubbish. There it is. Now, something that I read in the instructions. The motor for the front wheels, because of the orientation of the motors being pointing in different directions front to back, we have to wire the motors for the... I can't change the zoom, which is not going to help my life. So let's have a look at this chrome. As you can see here, front motor of the vehicle's motor is facing inwards, and so are the rear 2 motors. They're facing inwards. As a result, we have to solder the wires on the front one in reverse to the back one. Hopefully that made sense to everybody. So just going to lift that up and lift that up. Now I know my cabling I'm using is probably heavily overkill, but I would rather something that's potentially going to be drawing an amp is, it's all going to be concealed, it's only going to be closed up. I'd rather have something pulling close to an amp have much thicker cable than it needs. Where did I put my strippers? They're silver. I shouldn't be able to lose them. I got silver ones so I wouldn't lose them. Now, if you're one of my students watching this, I have active ventilation going on in this room. So that means I can use flux and solder quite happily and safely. So I'm just trying to match this up. I think it's gonna go that way around. Let's tin it regardless. Solder, soldering iron, smoky goodness. Sorry, I should mention for those who are new to my channel that my day job is a science and engineering teacher. So some of my days are spent actually teaching kids to do this sort of stuff. But what that also means is I have the risk of some of them finding my channels at some stage, and I have to then present as if I'm doing things the right way, which I am for the most part. One. I don't think there's enough solder in this one. I might have to add some more. Now, for those who are new to soldering, soldering is a self-fracturing process. So it wants to break. The joint wants to break, so you have to be careful and let it fully cool before you start manipulating it. There are times where the lead is genuinely the best option. Oh, lead is yeah. I've got a full suite of soldering stations at the school I work with the most, and we use lead solder because lead-free solder sucks and it just eats the tips off the soldering irons. And for the school to be replacing a suite of, what is it, 12 soldering irons every 6 months, you just can't do that. It's expensive. So we have signs up and we have strict hand washing protocols. And we have active air extraction on every soldering station when the kids aren't doing silly things like melting the soldering stations. Hopefully the next round of soldering and electronics engineering, I'm going to be able to keep some of the soldering irons aside for the upper school kids who are a bit more trustworthy. Because the way high school works here in Australia is it's basically 11 turning 12 years old moves up to high school, and they're there through to year 12, which is what, 17 turning 18. So that one. They have a third piece of wire somewhere. On the floor. That's why I can't see it. So we've got about 30 minutes left of the stream. Normally I would go for 2 hours or a little over. But to be fair to my wife, I'll take the little guy off her a little bit sooner than my normal time frame would allow. So can you guys who are going to get to Murph... Oh, hi, Beta Jake. Sorry, I didn't see you come in. Any of you guys who get to Murph this weekend, if you could please just tell Jeremy that the hoodie belongs to Keela and it's got her name on it, because it really does. Just for me, that would be awesome. It's mostly to just grief him. I love it how old people, including myself sometimes, think that kids nowadays are worse than kids previously. No, they're no worse. It's just what they get up to is different. Technology and culture has moved on. So back when Clown Hammer and I were young, you'd do silly things like maybe puff petrol or steal a car or get on a British Airways mystery flight and go to New York. Wait, did I say that out loud? No, I didn't do that, honest. Smoky goodness. Yeah, makes it harder to lie about it. Oh, fireworks in a dry field. Yeah, that was another special one. There was myself and two friends. One of them was my best man at my wedding. We saved up £100 each, which was going back at that sort of length of time was quite a lot of money. And we got our passports. And we, rather than going to school one day, we headed to Heathrow and jumped a flight and ended up in New York for what, 5 or 6 hours before we flew home on a mystery flight thing that they used to do. So it was basically you turn up there with your passport and your £100 and they put you on whatever flight has lots of spare seats on it. So that is black on that side, so that needs to be on that side. Let's just clamp that on the vice a bit better. Ceramic tweezers. Yeah. The only person growing up I was scared of was the guy who became my best man's mum. Her favorite saying was, "Don't lie to me, or I will grab you by the short and curlies and I will twist." And she was the sort of woman who was mean enough and evil enough, but loving enough to have done it. Uh-oh, slightly melted the insulation on that wire. That's not great. Let's ask ourselves, what would Steve Builds do? He would do this. He would unsolder it. He'd whack on some heat shrink like this. And now for this next part, I am going to mute you guys because I'm about to use the heat gun and I don't want to deafen you. And I'm back. "5 a.m. comes quickly." It certainly does. That. Black wire that side, that's right. So, I think I've got one more big soldering joint I need to do, which is putting the XT60 for the ESC connection onto the battery pack wire. There's not enough solder on there, Phil. That's better. That goes in there. No, I already dug an XT60 out from memory. I know I did. Where did I put it? Ah, I know where I put it. I put it in the speed controller box. Now this is the speed controller that the 3D Sets guys recommend. It comes out of the box with an XT60 already attached, but it doesn't come with the other one. So I realized this early enough and I managed to order an XT60 pack. It was like 10 of them, males, 10 males, 10 females for $4 or something silly. So let's put all of this out of the way. If I panic when I open the ESC box next time, please tell me that I put the unit in the bottom. Battery pack is here. Bye, Clown Hammer. Have a good night. just so I can keep it neat, I'm going to put some heat shrink on it to keep the two wires together. Let's tin the wires and the terminals, and then we'll solder it. And after that, it's probably going to be about time to call the stream. Now, I'm trying not to do Lewis Rossman levels of fluxing. For those of you who don't know who Lewis Rossman is, check him out on YouTube. He does lots of repair videos, or well, used to, and now he does a lot of political lobbying for right to repair and electronics, and also things for farmers, because farmers get gypped. Solder, right there. Can't see it for looking. Just getting lots of heat into the terminal. And then lots and lots of solder into the hole in this pin. How's this looking? Can you guys see what I'm doing? There is something I can try. Right camera. That's a bit better. I can't see exactly what you guys can see because the TV I'm using as a monitor for the video is a bit low res. It's a 720p, which is why we don't use it anymore. Something I forgot to do was check the orientation of the red and black. Square side is red. Square side is that side. Time to tin the wires. Before I do that, so the way XD60s work for the plug I'm using, XD is called an XD60. The way these plugs work, they really do need the shroud. So I put the shroud on the wire ahead of time to allow that to happen. One, that's starting to get unbearably hot. So I'm just using the ceramic tweezers now so I don't burn myself. Dump a bunch of heat into the wire end and into the terminal. Everything goes molten and sticks. Done. And that presses down and clicks into place. Some heat shrink over it to keep it nice and pretty. Turn the soldering iron off. And will it mute you guys? I don't know if it's muting you or not. I'm not going to risk it. Okay, it looks like the noise cancelling actually works pretty well with the heat gun over the side. Hopefully you could only hear it just over the top of me. How was that audio-wise? Thanks, Jex. Okay, so that's all in place. That looks like it's gone well. So, with my little guy now starting to play up for my wife quite badly, and I can hear it in the background, that is 2-to-1 heat shrink because it's the cheapest, nastiest stuff off AliExpress, and I have never had a need to use anything more than that. I have seen some 4-to-1 stuff at work. I was thinking, ooh, but I've resisted the urge so far. So, where we're at, we are now ready to use some Wagos to join all this wiring together, and then we are ready to install the electronics into the truck. Next week, we are going to do a proper stream because I'll actually have no distractions and I'll have no little guy at home because he'll be with my mother-in-law. Wife will be at work. Little daughter will be at school, and it's just going to be a lot easier. So, where we're at, we have a truck. It has its trims, light trims fitted to the, and the fuel tanks fitted, and we didn't get a lot done on the actual chassis itself, but it's work in progress. We fitted the flap to the back of the tray and installed the locks, which, as I feared, don't quite fit. That might all need a reprint of some kind, or I need to maybe just double check what's going on with it. But that certainly seems to be well on its way to being the right way. So next week we will be building the cab, we will be building the suspension, and hopefully it's going to start looking like a proper truck. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for coming. I will bid you a good day, and it's time for me to hop on out of here. Bye guys.